Well, let's kick off here. Former President Jacob Zuma claims he was the victim of the State Capture Commission chairperson, now Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Zuma was heavily implicated in the testimony of numerous witnesses at the commission. Earlier this month, the presidency received the amended version of the State Capture report, which incorporated corrections made by Chief Justice Zondo. Now, the presidency says those implicated in the report are well within their rights to take it on review, but work has already started in processing its recommendations. Now, Zuma claimed at a media briefing in Johannesburg that the commission was established to target him.
My imprisonment started with Chief Justice Zondo setting out an unprecedented legal process against me, in terms of which I became his target of abuse. From the start of the State Capture Commission, it became clear to me that Chief Justice Zondo, as chair of the commission, was not interested in establishing the truth, but was himself involved in building up the narrative of the state capture. In other words, Chief Justice Zondo was not a neutral judge leading a fact-finding commission, but was running a process of writing a report that would establish the guilt of all those who had been accused of state capture because of their known association with me.
Well, the former president also questioned how the nation would have reacted if the dollars that were discovered in President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phala Phala farm were found in his Nkandla home. Zuma says President Ramaphosa conducted private businesses while holding the high office of presidency, and that is corruption.
I'm assuming that what President Ramaphosa has said about the many dollars under his bed or furniture is true, that he conducts private businesses while serving as president of our country. That on its own is unconstitutional, and those who applaud him for doing so commit the most disgusting transgression, not a transaction, transgression. I'm wrong. Conducted private business while holding the high office of president is nothing but corruption, which is inconsistent with the nature of that office and the Constitution itself. It is inconsistent with the oath of office taken by President, and those who defend such deeds, both in the executive and the legislature, commit treason against our Constitution.
All right, now let's get analysis. We're now joined by Zoom by political analyst, Professor André Duvenhage. Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, of course, the former president spoke about a number of things, but essentially saying that there were several injustices against him. Of course, the judiciary, President Cyril Ramaphosa came under fire during this entire press briefing, essentially saying, let's start with, in fact, what he said about Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, that he failed in his oath of office. What do you make about just some of the utterances that the former president made?
Unati, yes, thanks to you and to the listeners. It is absolutely clear to me that we need to read these comments against the backdrop of, amongst others, the 2022 National Conference of the ANC. It's a bit timing. I would like to say there is brilliant timing. And the strategy is basically to define his own innocence, to put himself up as a victim of the system, and secondly, to delegitimize Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, his government, as well as the CR22 renewal process. What is at the center of everything is his attack on the Zondo Commission and the findings of the Zondo Commission. It is also my assessment that the violence of 2021 had a lot to do with the Zondo Commission and Cyril Ramaphosa. So in a way, this is a continuation of a battle that started already after 2017 and is just continuing into a new phase. And we must also take into consideration Mr. Zuma is aiming to become the chairperson of the ANC in opposition to Mr. Gwedi Mantashe.
Now, let's look at some of the things that he said with regards to President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, I know that you're saying, we must look at the timing of his press conference in relation to the elective conference that's happening in December. But some of the things that he said with regards to President Cyril Ramaphosa were also some of statements made by, President Thabo Mbeki, former President Thabo Mbeki, also today, so President Zuma saying that, if the dollars that were found at the Phala Phala farm were in fact found in Nkandla, it would have been a different outcome to what we are currently seeing in as far as President Cyril Ramaphosa is concerned. Former President Thabo Mbeki, of course, saying that the ANC must deal with the looming reality that President Ramaphosa may face impeachment over the Phala Phala saga. So what do we then make of these two former presidents essentially saying that something has to be done in as far as President Cyril Ramaphosa is concerned?
Yes, I am 100% in agreement with old President Thabo Mbeki. He is absolutely right that this is going to be a decisive moment for the ANC as an organization. And he is emphasizing socio-economic conditions and circumstances. Mr. Zuma, on the other side, is connecting the ANC, and if I quote, he's referring to the CR government as they serve the colonial powers, and saying they mobilize the whole society against him. And then he's also criticizing the Ramaphosa government because of lack of performance, lack of government and governance, referring to Eskom, referring to South African Airways, etc., and arguing that he was on his way to bring nuclear energy, and this will make sure that we don't have any problems with electricity in the country. So clearly, his strategy is to delegitimize the current government of Mr. Ramaphosa and to put his own position forward. He also make it quite clear that he doesn't fear prison. He believes that the Zondo Commission is inconsistent. He even go thus far as to argue that why is the Zondo Commission singling him out and not ordinary members of the ANC. And now we know that corruption is rife within the structures of the ANC. But clearly, this is about the decisive moment the Thabo Mbeki referred to for the ANC, and he is playing into that game.
In fact, just talking about this defining moment, that is the elective conference. Of course, former President Jacob Zuma, some are saying, is positioning himself as somebody who, during his tenure, led a very, sustainable government, talking about how in his tenure, 2015, there was no load shedding. He ensured that load shedding did, in fact, stop. Of course, looking at the panel, he talked about how now SAA is in shambles and how the country is in disarray. Do you think now that, of course, you spoke about, the timing, do you think that in a way that is, of course, what he's saying in terms of positioning himself and saying, look at the current leadership and look what I have done?
I have no doubt that this is all about positioning not only himself, but I think the bigger group in opposition to the CR22 renewal campaign within the ANC. But what he didn't mention was the fact that there was a lot of sabotage going on with regard to Eskom. We have seen a comprehensive strategy of undermining government and governance in South Africa. In that sense, I don't think Mr. Zuma can say that his conscience is clear about everything. I think he is part of a very destructive strategy, what many people refer to as the so-called Stalingrad strategy. What is, however, interesting about the Eskom problems, it didn't start with Jacob Zuma. In fact, it did start with Thabo Mbeki by not planning strategically successful for the future. But what happened under Zuma, he basically took it down even further to the point where we are at the moment. So I think both of them are guilty in some way, but I think the biggest amount of guilt must go the way of old President Jacob Zuma. I think Mr. Mbeki is absolutely right that the ANC must survive the end of the year. They need to provide leadership in a society and a state that is facing more and more challenges all the time, politically, in terms of order and stability, socioeconomic challenges like unemployment, poverty, etc., and then also the whole context of social cohesion. At the moment, this is missing, and this is above and on a higher level than the conflict between Zuma and Ramaphosa, which is basically an ANC-orientated conflict.
All right, Prof, thank you so much for your analysis. Let's leave it there for this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. Political analyst, Professor André Duvenhage, there just weighing in on that press conference that was held earlier by the former President Jacob Zuma. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back straight after this. Don't go away.